James Miklos here again with you today for our first video blog. And I'm really excited about this video blog. We're starting off in the series of the connection between the spirit, the mind, and the body. And so the first one here today is about the spirit connection. And there's such a everything is so intertwined within us, and in our Western way of thinking, that we look at ourselves as, if you're a spiritual person, you think of yourselves as having a spirit, and okay, the soul lives on beyond the body. But if you take more of an atheistic viewpoint, which I don't, but typically with the atheistic viewpoint is that the mind dies with the body. So when the body ceases to function, everything else about you ceases to exist. My whole aim in my practice is to be able to integrate the different parts of us and to look at how wholeness can take place within us. And really, my position is, when someone asks me, what do you do? I said, well, what I do is help people achieve that ability within them to be the best they can be, to be wholesome people. And I believe that that's the way we're supposed to be. We're supposed to have an abundant life. And with that in mind, I wanted to take the time to talk to you about the Spirit's role and what it is with relationship to our being. And as I was saying earlier, the Western mind looks at compartmentalizing things as, the spirit and the mind are the same thing, and I'm going to show you there is a difference between that, and the body's a separate entity. But really, that's not the case. The body's illness, the body's weariness isn't by itself encapsulated, separate from what's going on in the mind and the spirit. So let's start off by talking a little bit about the spirit. The spirit, first of all, in the English language, it's kind of elusive to us what it really is. So I want to look at some of the biblical languages, being Hebrew and Greek, and the way those languages actually identify the difference between the two. In Hebrew, the word for spirit really is, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is ruach, which has to do with breeze or wind. So it has that kind of connotation to the meaning. And in Greek, it's very much the same as the word pneuma. And pneuma is where we get the English word for, let's say, pneumatic tires. And so, it talks about air-filled tires. And so both of the languages seem to speak of breath or breeze or wind. And I think that we could say that that is who we are. And the soul, the difference with the soul in these languages, and of course, particularly in the Greek, it's the word psyche, where we get the English word psyche, where we get psychology or psychotherapy or psychiatry. So it has to do with the arena of the mind and its constituents. So, it's difficult to kind of, even though I'm defining this, but it's difficult to be able to say, okay, well, this is just the spirit, and this is just the soul, and this is just the body. Even though they have unique functionality and identity, but I think it's important to recognize that even though there's a unique differences between them all, but yet they're so intertwined and integrated that one affects the other. And so to look at wholeness as how to achieve wholeness in our entire being is we have to look at the whole picture. So my story is that at the age of 15, my own spiritual journey involved where I was physically ill. Was part of it, and emotionally distressed. There were dynamics going on in my household of conflict and with that brought on an inflammation in the gullet. We'll talk about that when I get to the body, but specifically of how there was a spiritual intervention for me in my personal encounter with Jesus Christ, and with that, the transformation of my spirit affected a transformation in my mind and brought about physical healing in my body. So that's my first line of experience, was how the spiritual affected my spirit, my soul, and then my body, bringing me to a place of healing. And it's important for us to be able to understand the difference. The spirit is really the life essence, if you will, of our very being. In psychology, it's referred to as the unconscious mind or the subconscious mind of a person. And these are the things that we could say when we dream at night, it's our unconscious or subconscious mind or our spirit that is actually experiencing or seeing these things. And yes, it does involve the soul, which is the mind, but definitely on a deeper level, there's that influence, particularly when we wake up from particularly a disturbing dream, which we call a nightmare. But it's important for us to understand what affects our spiritual life does affect our conscious life and our physical life. And a great example is what is called in psychology a negative cognition, and just to look at what the contrast of negative versus positive cognition. Well, we can look at consciously and have a very different belief. So for example, a negative cognition could be, I'm a bad person. But the conscious mind, oftentimes we'll argue that. The conscious mind will say, no, I'm a good person. And sometimes that's where I find with clients, they'll fight that, when I say, well, you have a belief that you're a bad person. They go, oh, no, I'm a good person. And sometimes people in their own insecurity will continue to say, oh, well, I'm a good person. Well, I'm a good person. Or I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And the unconscious mind holds very deep-rooted beliefs that come from early childhood development, as early as 2 months prior to ovulation. It can